if you bought it at 68 and it's gone to 20, you can immediately say, oh, this sucks. I made a
Yeah.
mistake. No, you didn't. You happen to buy at a cyclical peak. And when it's at 150, you're going to feel great. When the money printer goes burr again, it's going to go into sound money investments because is having some sort of a hybrid between an inflationary depression wherein everything we own goes down in value and everything we need goes up in cost. And
Hmm.
so that's the problem with the Fed, right? They can print the money but they can't determine where it goes, and the money tends to chase recent performance. And so that's why, I mean, that, by the way, that's how Bitcoin got to 68,000, because as you'll recall, in 2020 it broke out from the 510 area and it went to
Yeah.
50, and every central bank in the world said, uh-oh, we got a real friggin' problem here. And every speculator in the world said, this is great, 10 to 50, oh my God, I got to get in on that. And they bought 50 and drove it to 68. And then the tide slightly shifted and everyone said, oh, these central banks might get more responsible. And there was a time we thought the government was going to run $2 or $3 trillion deficits for a couple more years, but they actually stopped. And so the deficit came down, tax revenues went up from the stocks, and everyone said, oh, we got a little too far ahead of ourselves. We got out over our skis. These currency events are very volatile, and that's what makes it very difficult as an investor. I mean, it's kind of like, we're in this fugoid up and down, and it's no fun. I mean, there's no doubt it's no fun. It's very easy. If you bought it at 68 and it's gone to 20, you can immediately say, oh, this sucks. I made a
Yeah.
mistake. No, you didn't. You happen to buy at a cyclical peak, and when it's at 150, you're going to feel great. In my mind, when the money printer goes burr again, it's going to go into sound money investment. Hyperinflation occurs when a majority of the people realize that the government can never stop printing the underlying currency. That's it. That's all it takes. And the Fed has really set themselves up to totally lose their credibility all the way through. Sven Hendrick did a great job of talking about this.
Yes.
The next Fed pivot will be the last. The Fed's done. They're finished. I mean, the Fed is basically finished. They don't know it yet, but they are. They were kind of finished when they, printed as much as they did and said inflation was transitory and it got away from them. So now they're reacting the other way, going too strong on them. We're going to tighten it down and we will never pivot again, and we're going to bring inflation back down to 2%, which they'll never do. And they're saying they've got it all under control, and they don't. And then what will happen next is something will break, as I've described. The debt cyclone will cause something to break. Principally, I believe it'll be the U.S. bond market. And at that point in time, they will have to pivot. There's nobody to save them. I mean, they're now at the level where these currencies are at risk because there's no coming back from the expansion of a credit thing, as von Mises said. I mean, the only question is, do you stop and let it collapse, or do you print and have inflation? And so what they did in 2020, in March of 2020, is they went to the printer.
Right.
And they managed to avert the crisis, but that led to the inflation.
Right.
And now the inflation's out of control, and they're trying to avert that crisis by jacking rates up as fast as they've done ever in their history. But in turn, what they're seeing is that England's blowing up, Japan's blowing up, Italy's blowing up, and they're soon going to see the housing market's going to blow up, and then the economy is going to blow up. I mean, pretty much everything's going to go to zero if they don't stop. And so, including their bond market, by the way. I think the next pivot will probably be the last, because I think with the next pivot, people will realize they can never stop. When money printer goes burr, again, as I said, Bitcoin's going to 100,000, gold's going to 3,000, oil's probably going to 150, and there's going to be a massive inflation. Somebody in the political world emerges that understands that the problem, I mean, the issue we're facing is the fourth turning, right? The issue we're facing is the money's bad, the money's broken, and we need political leadership that realizes that that's the problem. I mean, and the only way we can solve this is through education, and that is to say that we've got to get out there and tell the story, because this has to be more than just a fringe movement. It's got to become
Right.
a semi-mass movement. And
Right.
we don't have to have a majority, but we got to have a really loud minority that
For sure.
understands that sound money is the issue. Given the technology and the progress we've made, we should all be working 20-hour weeks and
Yeah.
living better than our parents did or our
100%.
grandparents did. And in fact, we're all slaving away because the system's broken and there's so much leakage, into
Yes.
these elite pools, and the governments are they've pursued so many bad policies. I mean, setting interest rates causes capital to go to the wrong areas. And as a result of that, it costs all of us. We're all poorer as a result of this broken system that we live in. We would all be much richer. Our lives would be much, much richer if we had sound money. Two things they could do. One, they could get the US government spending under control. They could, cut back on the military expenses, get out of all the meddling all over the world, means test Social Security and Medicare. Basically, in a very aggressive manner, try to balance the budget. Okay, if they did that, that would help their cause and prevent, the collapse of the dollar that I see is coming. But I look at the politicians we have in office right now. I don't think that's a very high probability. They could also do a reset, some sort of a monetary reset, old dollar, new dollar. They might try this with a CBDC, which I think will fail miserably, but some people might buy it because, particularly if they're going to get universal basic income via CBDC, there's some segment of the population that'd be, that's great. Government's giving me money. Sure. Love it. Right. So they could do that. They could force us, they could lock the exits. They could try and make Bitcoin illegal. They could try and tax the hell out of Bitcoin and gold. They could force our IRAs and 401ks and force us to buy government bonds. I mean, they could say this is like World War II and, you've got to support your country by buying our debt. There are a lot of things they could do. There are a lot of directions they could try, and some of those might forestall the collapse. I don't know. I think there's a possibility that they'll skate through this one. But honestly, I don't rate the probability of it as being very high. Part of the reason why I continue to support gold is I'm really anti-fiat money. Mm-hmm. And, you can't get you can't get all old people to buy Bitcoin. Some people get it. But what I see, and so in my client base, I've got a lot of people who want to protect themselves from inflation, but they're afraid of Bitcoin.
Sure.
And so I drag them into gold, and then I try and convince them that Bitcoin's an even better solution than gold. But, I think they're both going to work. I think Bitcoin's going to work better. But, there are some people, when you're 70 or 80 years old, do you really want to, you can't be 100% in an asset that could have a 60% drawdown. That could freak you out, right?
Yeah.
And gold, by comparison, the biggest annual drawdown on gold has been like 25%. So, and how much risk you take is a function of your age. You're in your 20s and 30s, you should be 100% Bitcoin. Screw gold, you don't need it. We're really lucky bastards that we understand this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel very good right now because of the recency bias of the last year or so of, 68 to 20. Mm-hmm. But we're about to, it's going to feel completely different in about a year when Bitcoin's at 100,000 and gold's at 3,000. Look, if you're in the sound money community, be of good cheer, be strong and be optimistic. I guess my final comment would just be, be at peace with yourself. Know that if you understand this stuff, part of my speech is going to be, we are all lucky bastards. We have no idea how lucky we are. We are about to be rewarded in an enormous way, and people can't see it. And so, be of good cheer. Just, take care of yourself, work out, eat well, love your family, be nice to other people, and save in sound money, and we will win. Marty Bent's got it right. In the long run, we will win. And the long run's coming really quickly. It's not going to take that long. It's happening right now. This baby's coming out.